We did a video exposing DeWalt tools for playing some marketing trickery that convinced a lot of people to buy a toolkit when it wasn't exactly what it was marketed as. There are reviews that all say, gosh, I swear when I got this that it was full of brushless tools, and when I got home,
I realized that's not true.
And they sent us an apology email. Before we dive into this video, I will make it super clear, this video is not sponsored by or affiliated with DeWalt tools whatsoever, and these opinions, they're all mine. That said, DeWalt tools, if you're watching this video and you want to help us bring your tools to an amazing audience, we have an amazing audience. If you want to get in touch, the link is below the video. So before we dive into the video, I want to share with you kind of what the original issue was that really upset me. I think like you guys, if we're like most people, we really love our power tools, right? They make a huge difference in our daily lives because we build stuff and we rely heavily on our tools. That said, we also work hard for our money, and so when we spend it, we want to get a good value. And if you're like me, you invest in high quality tools so that you can focus on your work and not your tools. We all know and like the DeWalt name. Most of us do. Some of us have gripes, and there's no perfect tool company, right? Every single company, we have every single tool company on the planet here, and everybody kind of has something that they do well. But when we buy one of these tools, I don't care what the sticker is on it, we have an expectation. And when I bought this toolkit, like most people, I was super excited because I felt like I was getting a tool upgrade. So what I did was I was walking through a big box store near the holiday season, and they got me. There was this toolbox that had this toolkit. And I thought maybe, because these tools had been out for a little while, some of the prices had come down, and so they were becoming more affordable or more approachable. If you follow tools at all, you know what a brushless tool is, okay? But you also know that there's some legacy tools out there that are kind of from bygone eras, and those aren't as efficient, they're not as durable, they use a lot more energy, they're not as powerful. And so what happened here was DeWalt took a toolkit that was full of sort of legacy tools, kind of yesterday's technology, and they sneakily packaged it very craftily, very smart, with some of their modern, newer technology, brushless technology. And because I wanted to upgrade our toolkit, I saw this kit, and I thought, we need that toolkit, and so I went ahead and purchased it. But it wasn't until I got the toolkit home that I noticed that they had tricked me. Let me show you the very subtle trick that they got me with. So within the DeWalt tool ecosystem, there are a few really important logos that really matter. And we all pay attention to these things because they're all things that influence our buying decisions. One example of this is the XR logo. Of course, these are always changing all the time as these brands change their marketing strategies. But at the time I bought this, the XR logo meant, I think it actually means extra range. I'm not really sure on that, but I think what it did mean to me as a consumer was that this was newer technology. And so if you saw the XR logo, the likelihood was that you were buying a brushless tool. And this is an example. This is a brushless drill, and it's clearly marked brushless. And of course it has the XR logo on it. What's a little bit sneaky or stealthy though, is when they put the logo on the battery. Well, it turns out a battery can't be brushless, right? And so is it extra range battery? I'm not really sure. And why this is a little bit trickery is that here we have a product from DeWalt. Of course, there's no brushless logo on it because it's a flashlight, right? Although it does say LED. So I guess this could be another little sneaky trick, but this video is really about the XR logo. Notice the battery here has no XR logo, but it's also a lithium-ion battery, just like this battery is a lithium-ion battery. So fundamentally, there's no real difference in technology between these two products. This type of, I guess I could call it confusion, and that's only true in hindsight because at the time I made this purchase, I felt very confident I knew what I was buying. But you can see how this could be a little bit confusing, and so you see that this is sort of a marketing trick. So let me give you an example of how they're very stealthy with this, and this is how they got me. So here we have another DeWalt product. This one is not brushless. This Impact is a legacy technology. It's an older motor, it's a little bit louder, it takes more juice. It's not quite as powerful as its modern brushless brother. The problem is they package it up with an XR battery, and that's the trick. So when you buy this kit, you think, aha, I'm investing in new technology. You see the XR logo on the battery, on the drill, On the battery, don't see it on the impact, and you think, well, it's labeled as a brushless toolkit. The problem is they package this stuff together to sort of sell you a little taste of the newer technology, but then also to kind of move some of the older, cheaper technology off of the shelves. The problem is you feel tricked and you're frustrated because you spend your hard-earned money on something that you probably wouldn't have purchased had you had full knowledge. In the spectrum of trickery, this would actually be less tricky. Here we have a true brushless impact driver, and it's marked brushless, but of course on their marketing they don't show you that. But notice here on the tool it's marked XR, but nowhere on the battery do you see any indication that this is newer technology. Where over here on the tool they don't mark it XR, but the battery is marked XR. And I guess what I'm trying to say here, what I was hoping to convey in the original video was, you know what, pay attention. You know, these companies, we trust them a lot. We put a lot of faith in their tools and their products because mostly they're good. And I'm not saying that any of the tools are bad. It just really is frustrating when you spend your hard-earned money and you end up with something that you didn't expect. So I think it's fair to do an update on the original video. In that video, we did sort of a comparison test between some of the brushless Milwaukee tools that we own and this mostly not brushless kit, ironically, which is mostly legacy technology. We did some kind of cross-cut testing comparisons to see maybe how many cuts we could do on a single battery. Honestly, the results were surprising, and so there was sort of a moment where I'm like, you know, for being old technology, stuff's still pretty good. And I think a lot of us have kind of figured out that the big leap here in power tools is the battery. Of course, the tool does matter, and some of the newer tools, they are amazing. But the big leap here is the battery technology. So it's pretty crazy that an older, not brushless tool with a better battery can actually do an amazing job. I've been using these tools now for several years. That's crazy. I actually thought that they would just go on the shelf and that was it. They just collect dust. What I have actually found is that they're pretty adequate tools. I would highly recommend the non-brushless tools for kind of a strong DIYer, or maybe somebody who just wants some decent quality tools but on a budget, who doesn't really need the latest technology, where they maybe aren't putting in thousands of screws every single day, or maybe a couple ounces of weight doesn't really make a big difference. I've actually been surprised. The circular saw, I can't tell you the difference, honestly. It's pretty amazing. Even the brushless tools that we own don't really cut as good as this. Now, I can't tell you all the reasons why. Maybe it's partly battery, partly tool. But either way, I find myself grabbing this tool a lot. And I have found one of the things that I really like is just putting smaller batteries on these tools so that they're overall lighter to work with. Instead of a big battery and a big tool and a big saw, a lot of them work really good with small batteries. So by taking this smaller battery and putting it on, say, the drill or the impact driver, I tend to find that I grab these tools more often. I'm not sure if they're just lighter overall or what the situation is, but it's actually enjoyable to work with. There is a couple of exceptions to that. The grinder, I don't care what you do, you're going to need a really big battery to cordless grind. But overall, I would still say that I use the grinder a lot. I actually reach for it quite a bit. And this is a crazy confession, but I have been reaching for this reciprocating saw more than I grabbed for my Milwaukee. I know that's hard to say, but it's actually been pretty good. I can't tell you there's a marked difference. One thing I do feel like I see a big difference in, and I feel like this is worth admitting, that way there's a true comparison here. The Milwaukee tools, I would say, are definitely a higher quality. So don't confuse this for like one's better than the other. They're just different. My Milwaukee tools, when I really want to get some seriously crazy work done, they're bigger, they're heavier, and so ironically they result in lower fatigue for the user. My Sawzall, yeah, it gets some serious work done. But when I don't really need to do that, I actually tend to grab these lighter tools just for more DIY projects. So wrapping it up, I don't really regret buying these tools. The two things I regret is being tricked as a consumer, and of course now I'm smarter and so are you. The other thing is I probably wouldn't have been quite so quick to pay what I paid for this toolkit if I'd have known what I was buying. We all know that a lot of the tool companies really want to get you onto their battery system, and this is kind of a way of doing that, right? Because now you own the batteries, and now it's less difficult to get you to move into some of their newer tools. Those are the only two major regrets that I have. So about that apology email. So DeWalt emailed us pretty much right away as soon as our video went live before, and of course it's been seen by millions of people. There's a couple of really smart pieces to this. One, as a marketing person, I think is who actually emailed us. It's very smart to try to get us a product very quickly. Maybe those products will end up in our videos and they'll get more exposure. Or maybe we'll change our tone and speak positively of the DeWalt tool system. I'm not really sure, but either way, it's pretty affordable. What they offered to do was to send us the tool that we thought we were going to buy. And I guess I want to say that, you know what, at the end of the day, that's the mark of a good tool company. Steve Jobs once said, the mark of a good company is not what they do when things are going well, it's what they do when things aren't going well. Although I'll blame this situation on DeWalt themselves, what is interesting to me is that they stepped up, and at least because we had made a video about this situation, they at least made an effort to make it right with us. Now, are they going to make it right with you guys and everybody else? I'm not really sure, but it sounded like they were going to escalate this issue to their teams and make a correction. And I think the point with that is that DeWalt is listening, and that's the measurement of a true company. Because when you buy a tool, it makes you believe that they care and they want to make sure that you're actually satisfied with what you purchased. Woo, just flying through it.